Okay, so our content warning. I do appreciate a movie that gives us a content warning, but this film contains flashing lights, themes of trauma, and an unlikable female protagonist. Viewer discretion is advised. I mean, I do like an unlikable female protagonist. Hi, hello, welcome to Totsango. If you are new, hi. If you're returning, welcome back. This is a channel where I do all kinds of things, often in my dirty garage. And sometimes we make soap, sometimes we play games, sometimes we or review movies, sometimes we just babble talk about random stuff. Today we are Babbletalk reviewing Not Okay, a new Hulu movie. I watched it the other night and I kept thinking, oh man, I wish it wasn't like 2 a.m. because there are so much that I want to talk about with this movie that I'm just not. So I wanted to just dive a little deeper and also hear what you guys are thinking because I'm just very curious. Because I don't know, there was a lot in this movie that as I relate a little bit too hard, and like the cringe is real, but it's also like it's my own cringe. It's my own cringe. So let's get into it, shall we? So we start the movie with Danny, our main character, like giving this tearful like monologue as she's at a computer crying, and we're seeing like all these posts and videos and like social media things basically just talking about what a terrible human she is. It sets the tone. It sets the tone, and then we get sort of like the time skip, turn to camera, end of the introduction, words from Danny to live by, I guess.
Yeah, well, let me tell you.
Be careful what you wish for.
Not okay. We dive into the movie full bore right here. So we get the time skip to 2 months earlier, and Danny is just like apparently some kind of journalist, writer, maybe, but like it's so cringy. And basically she just comes across as very self-centered, very much like if Kristen Bell's character from The Good Place never got better, and only got worse. It's kind of like taking that Eleanor Shellstrop to the next level, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And so basically, she struggles with friendships. She feels lonely, alone, and I think that they do a very good job of like very quickly telling us the kind of person that Danny is. She's the kind of person that has FOMO, fear of missing out, because she was on a cruise during 9/11. Like, she's not a good person. She's not a good person at all. So we find out that she's actually a photo editor, and her boss is not super thrilled with really much of anything that she does. And so then we get introduced to, I don't know, this influencer guy, Colin, who is like the most influencer that ever was in his cloud of vape smoke. I guess he's like a cannabis influencer, which I didn't know that was a thing, which sounds very fun. But she like awkwardly kind of introduces herself to him and then heads back to her computer and tries to get back to work, is like jealous about writers retreats and all kinds of stuff that are going on. And so she's just trying to like make her mark, but also she doesn't really have a mark to make because she's an unlikable female protagonist. She definitely gives Eleanor Shellstrop to the max. But it's also just like Eleanor Shellstrop, maybe it was because she was played by Kristen Bell, was still at least a little likable. I'm not quite sure. But like even her trying to like sneak her way into the queer bowling league was just, it's so cringy. It's so much. And I just like, my heart hurts for her and also just for everybody around her. And here he is once again. This goes on for a very long time. This goes on for longer than anyone needs for it to go on. But this is the scene where
Other side.
Danny realizes, oh, what if she were to go on a writer's trip to London, like this cool influencer that she saw, and wouldn't that give her some like street cred with this random influencer guy? And so she ends up telling him, after attempting to smoke this weird contraption he's made, that she's going to be going to London herself. But this is where it all begins. It starts with her lying and saying that she has a retreat to go to in Paris, and thinking about how she can plan her trip to Paris and getting her parents to pay for it. But then she realizes, because of a well-placed Photoshop window, that she doesn't actually have to go. She actually doesn't have to go to Paris. She can just stay where she is and use Photoshop and the internet to make it look like she's at a writer's retreat in Paris and take the time off of work. She even goes so far as to create a fake website for the retreat, and everything seems to be going super well.
So listen, I was kind of hoping I might be able to get your advice.
Danny decides that Rowan clearly has, like, some skills for the social media world, and so she's...
That poetry you do, it's crazy. It sounds just like Hamilton.
It sounds just like Hamilton. Oh my goodness. The cringe that Danny puts out is a lot. But also, through this whole thing, like, she's only getting close to Rowan because she wants to use Rowan to help her, right? Having Rowan feed her the words that she uses for her article. It's not okay.
If you're not okay, that's okay. You know, as it sounds, your pain is your biggest asset.
And so, of course,
They need to pay attention and truly ask themselves, am I okay? Am I okay? Now, my own sadness, my anger, they may stem from something more traumatic than you'll ever experience. That doesn't mean your pain isn't just real. No. It doesn't mean you're not.
very much Dear Evan Hansen. She blows up, and she even asks Rowan to repost her, literally stealing Rowan's words. And because Rowan is a young kid, she does.
You just say that Avril Lavigne is oldies? I can't.
So there's someone at work who has basically been sus of Danny the whole time because she is obviously suspicious. And so we're finally getting some pushback from this coworker. And so Harper is not buying any of it and is actually doing research into the writer's retreat and things, basically to prove that Danny was not there, because she wasn't. Harper lays out all of the obvious clues and basically tells Danny that she has the option. She can come out and tell everybody herself, or Harper will tell everyone for her. We get to the truth part of the movie, right? And so now we really move into the spoilers, right? I guess, if you can call them spoilers. So it comes out. She loses her friends. Were they really ever her friends to begin with? I mean, she did lie a lot. And, as we get to the end of the movie, I don't know. It feels very surreal, right? Because she deserves this. And also, I feel like I'm supposed to feel bad for her. That's not what we're gonna do here, which is what they do in the Dear Evan Hansen type movies, right? Usually there's a redemption arc and everything's better, sort of, kind of. I don't know. I never actually watched Dear Evan Hansen. I just watched a lot of videos about how bad the movie was. So Danny starts going to a internet shame support group, which is basically just filled with stereotypes of people who've been canceled on the internet, which was kind of a funny haha, but I don't know how helpful it is for her in her actual like emotional growth as a human. But what I did appreciate is in the end, what actually matters was that Zoey Deutch, Danny, was never the main character in the first place. It was always about Rowan. It was always about Mia Isaac. It was always about her story and her story being told. And I appreciated that so much because I think Rowan's story would have been a much more interesting one in terms of like a likable character and being able to like actually like see some of the hardships that she goes through as a teen advocate for gun safety, coming from a place of trauma, all of that. Like, where's that movie? I'm ready for it. But this is still Danny's movie. They want us to get that feeling that it shouldn't be, and yet it still is. And so Danny walks out. She doesn't have the closure with Rowan, which is good. Thank God. Honestly. And that's the movie. And I go back and forth, right? Because I definitely laughed. It was definitely funny. I haven't actually read or looked at any of the other reviews. I don't know what other people are thinking about it. I think Zoey Deutch did a really good job with Danny. I think that, they warn you going in that you have an unlikable female protagonist. And I think they did a good job of actually keeping her unlikable, which it feels weird to say, but like that's a positive to me about this movie, because so often we get an unlikable female protagonist who in the end, changes her ways or whatever. And I just appreciated that that wasn't the case here. There was so much cringe though throughout the movie. I did find myself like hiding underneath my covers, even though it's a million degrees in my house right now.
Oh.
Because like the moments where she's like basically bringing TikTok and internet culture into real life with people who are not also part of internet and TikTok culture, because don't get me wrong, when I hang out with my like internet friends in real life, we literally say the name of emojis out loud at each other, but we are allowed to be cringe together because that's who we are. But to do that like with other people, I don't know, it was just, there was a lot of cringe, a lot of humor, a lot of interesting commentaries, and like it feels like there's a statement that's trying to be made, but I'm not sure I know what it is. I think I would give this movie 3 out of 5 Mickey Mouse. Funny, a little bit serious at times, and a lot of just like nudging me on my own, I don't know, culpability in the social media world and the ways in which we want so badly for people to like us that we can become an unlikable person in real life. And I don't know, maybe just the fact that I'm worried about that is enough. Maybe it's not. But I wholeheartedly enjoyed watching the movie. Have you watched Not Okay? What do you think? Is this a like accurate commentary on the ways in which our social media culture can kind of reel us in? Is this just another story of another terrible human getting famous and then getting canceled? How many more stories like this do we really need? Let me know. I hope you enjoyed this Babbletalk, and I would love to hear from you if you subscribe, if you comment, even if it's just a little emoji. And yeah, we are starting a new thing. I'm starting a Patreon. It's very small right now, but it does mean early access to videos like this. It means I get to thank you in our credits and more stuff to come. Bye. We'll see you next time. Bye.